Hello everyone. So this video isn't actually going to be delving into the whole Silics mod that we're working on. This is actually going to be doing a completely different mod. So me and this guy right here, we've been talking, and he's been having trouble with his mod, and he was asking for help. And I was thinking that what would be a good idea for a video is to actually sort of go like help him and make a video on it, as well as so that way if anyone else needs any help, I can also do this. Now, just to reiterate, I did get his consent to make his video, so I just want to make sure that all that's clear. And so yeah, I'm going to be showing you his mod, and I'm going to be showing you ways to sort of improve upon it. The mod right here is Autotopia, so you could download this from Steam. And yeah, so we're going to jump right into it with right here. So this is his mod right here. And so there's a couple of things a bit off with it. The first thing is this file right here, the verses. I've looked inside both of these files, like the VS right there, they don't really do any. Well, the VS file doesn't seem to do anything. Like that file that I just clicked on, that doesn't really do anything. And then this one right here, this just doesn't have anything much with it, so we don't even need to have that. And then this just relates to my AutoCAD, so that doesn't, well, it's being opened by AutoCAD, but I don't know what this whole the SQLite is, and I'm not too, and I have a good feeling that's not really going to affect the mod anyways. So this whole file isn't needed. And so his schema is good. It references both the GUI elements, the simulation faction traits, and simulation descriptors. But when we look into the simulation descriptors, you can tell that they don't have like inside the brackets, they don't really have any sort of real description about them. There's no faction trait, nothing like that. And this is fine for when you're having a small mod, when you're adding like something that's like faction traits, nothing really too complex. But when you're working with like bigger mods and you want to make like a major faction or do more, you need to actually write something about. So like if you notice in the Endless Legend public, each one of these files has a specific thing going on with it, and so whenever you're working, you always want to like write a little like description in the bracket of it, or like just give like a unique name. And if we were to click on the faction simulation descriptor, you can tell, well, first off, this is already a bit like different than what we've normally been working with. We normally work with the simulation modifier descriptor, the name, and then we like have like a whole simulation descriptor right here. But the way that what he copied was actually the empire type. So when you load into your empire, this is just saying that like, okay, we're gonna have the empire army count is gonna start with 0. We're gonna have like the, I guess we're gonna have like allow negative money. Approval, the net empire approval is gonna be just negative because they want you to spawn. No net empire points, just like a bunch of it's just information to like, it's all about like your civilization when you start. So this doesn't really have anything to do with faction traits. And I can even show you, like, this is from like the public simulation one right here, and you can even see that there's like this one just like allows you to have like the luxuries, and this just says that like just general like luxuries and all that stuff. But like these are just like data, so that way you can actually have like an empire, and like it's just saying like what you can have in your empire. However, these aren't really that used in making faction traits, nor are they really used in actually making your own empire. So we can close out, well, I'm going to close out that one, but we can also delete all of this as well. And so that's kind of why you want to like change the name to something that gives it a description, because if you did want to edit it, if you did want to edit it, you should kind of give it like a name that says, okay, we're going to, like, this is the empire type or something like that. The other thing is that as we scroll down, you can see that he has the booster simulation descriptors as well. and then he has some military simulation descriptors, and just like a whole bunch of stuff here. Now a lot of this doesn't really need to be here. Um, Actually, I think that's oh wait, yeah, that's still all from the whole Empire thing. Now this is just like again like just general class units. These are just general class units. Nothing really too much about them that really don't need to be here. Um, and they should not really be edited with because these things are like just like well, I mean, first off, they're just very technical to edit with, and they don't really like add that much to the game. I mean, they could depending on like what mod you're making. But for our purposes, they're not going to really do anything. And then he talks about like the military power. So he's combining like all of his simulation descriptors into one thing, which is also not a good idea because there is a lot of there's a lot of documents here. There's a lot of like just information here, which will barrage like the entire document. So what I did was I copied his entire mod and I brought it into my community right here. And the first thing that I did was that I took out the VS and I went into here and I changed it to factions traits. That way we actually know what this is referencing. Like if you want to reference the Empire, make it be like Empire type. But if you want to make a brand new simulation descriptor, you should call it simulation descriptor, like I don't know, like brand new simulation descriptor or something like that. But you should never combine it all into one, and you should always have it where you give like a name to the document you're working on. And so what he asked me what he told me about is that there's I think 5 or 6 different traits that are in his Autotopia. The first one is Autotopian, which basically is your city's industry, dust, influence, and food equal to your science, but then halves your research speed. And so I'm gonna just show you what, and so I kind of edited the one in his already a little bit because I was having some difficulty like how to address the first part, which is the industry, dust, influence, and food equal to science, because there's no real operation that says equal, I think. I mean, it could actually. I mean, there could be one that says equal. Actually, I'm gonna just look up one and see if there's one that is equal. But I highly doubt that there is none in all of Endless Legend that's equal. But I did come up with an idea for that. Anyways, so originally what he had was that he had Autotopian percent, and he created his own target property, which I'm pretty impressed by because it is very daring to come up with your own target property. Because a lot of target properties are like I think done inside the C sharp and just like the game and the Unity itself, where the game is which is the engine that the game is run on. And so we can't actually access that. So to come up with your own target property is pretty impressive. And so he kind of did something like this where he has a property descriptor, and then gives it like a base value, and then he adds it to right there, and then he's using this target property. Now this isn't necessarily going to work the way he wants it to, really, because well, first off, it's basically the target property is like what's being affected. But since he's just saying like the only 3 times that's mentioned in his mod is the Autotopian percent base value 0, or at least in this document. I mean, it could be in the other one. But from what I'm getting at, it's just that it's not really referencing anything. It's just referencing a value of 0, so it's not really gonna affect anything. It's just that you're adding 0.5 to 0, and you're giving that to the class city, but it's not really affecting anything in the class city. So the first thing, so what I did was that I kind of just deleted everything at top, and the way that the Autotopia should work is that it should go as you have 1 line for industry, 1 line for dust, 1 line for influence, and 1 line for food, and then you're going to have that equal to your science. So what I'm going to do is going to actually be a a little bit different than what he kind of asked for. What I'm going to actually do is that, because there is no way you can actually have it equal to your science, or there could be a way, but it's just really advanced, and I don't want to like have this be that long of a video. Um, so what I'm thinking about doing is that we're going to have it be district dust, and our our district dust divided by our district our district science divided by our district dust, and then we're going to multiply that by our district dust. So what this is doing is that if our district dust, since it's the science divided by dust, since if our science is greater than our dust, then we should have an increased rate for our district dust. But if our science is lower than our district dust, then we should have a lower value for our district dust. So, and that's how I'm thinking about going about this. So, I'm gonna just copy this right here, just that way I have like a little bit of a reference, so I don't accidentally make a mistake. I'm gonna delete that later, but I just want to use this as an example right here. So we're gonna have our operation be multiplied, because whatever value we get from that whole operation, we want to multiply it. And so we're gonna have our left. We're gonna have our left be our district. It's gonna be, I think, it's gonna be our district dust, and I think it's going to go like district dust, and I think it's gonna be I think it's just gonna be that, but I'm not entirely sure. There is one thing that we can kind of look at in a little bit that's somewhat similar, but I'll go into that after this. Then we're gonna have our binary operation be division. Because when you're dividing it, it's I think it's left divides by right. So left is gonna be over the right, and then we're going to have our this is gonna be right, and we're going to have our right be our what's it called? No, wait, our left is gonna be district science. And this is going to be our district dust. This is going to be our district dust. And so basically, so just to go over what this is, assuming that we have the right values right here, it's going to say we're going to take our district science and divide it by our district dust, and then we're going to take that value and multiply it by our district dust. And so if we have greater science, we're going to get greater dust, have greater district dust. And if we have lower district science, then we're going to have less district dust. And so this is the closest that we can actually get to it being equal. So it's not going to exactly be equal, but it's going to be close to being equal. And there is something that what we can do. Actually, I'm gonna copy the binary operation and just actually mess this up a little bit. We should have this be we should have that be multiplication. We're going to look for all of our binary operations. And first off, we're going to see if there's any one that says division. Let me just move that. I don't think that there's going to be one that says division, because most of them are multiplication, if anything. And so what we could see right here is that this is something that's called out, but as you can see, we have district dust right there. So you can just multiply it by by like a district dust, and I'm pretty sure that the same would work for a science as well. So anyways, that should work like that. I'm going to just copy this. So all we have to do now is just copy this and just repeat this 4 different. We just have to repeat this 4 different times. So 1, 2, 3, 4. This is going to be dust. This one right here. So we have first one is dust. This one's going to be industry. Right there. And we're going to change the dust to industry. We're going to change this one to be food. And what was the other one? It was influence. In the game they call influence city point. Not influence. Food. In the game they call it city point, but the thing with city point that is weird is that it doesn't affect the city. It affects the... Oh, wait. I think it does... Yeah, wait. No, never mind. I'm thinking of, Wait. Am I thinking of influence point? I may be getting 2 things confused. But I think the, Hold on. I think it affects the... It affects something else. Okay, no, never mind. I was wrong. It does affect the city. And so what we could just do is that if we could just find count, and so there's only one reference to city point. I'm going to see if there's a way we can find out what's called in like a binary thing by having the sort of dollar sign. I'm gonna find all of it. Okay, so we have a binary right here, and this is city point. This is saying this is in class, and target property force, city point priority. This might work. I think that could work. But yeah, anyway, city point. It's not like as though it's going to be called district city point. It's just called city point. And so we're going to call that right there, and then we're going to call this city point. And we're just going to get rid of that right there. Okay, and so this should work. So normally, I think a last video or 2 videos ago, I said something about like be careful of doing things with division because there's not a lot of times where there's binary operations with division. Well, this is like one of those times where it's like where we use a division for something like this. Because I'm just thinking, like, even force we can't really have, because force wouldn't even, like, be referencing an equal to, or anything. Oh, and then the next thing. The next thing in the Autotopia is having research speed. So although this one doesn't really correlate to any one of these 4 right here, we can still add it to our faction trait, and, with, like, just another line, and it won't really affect any of these. The only thing that it will just do is that it'll just be like its own thing. Like, think of each one of these lines as its own unique trait, but it's just all being combined into one trait. So you can just have like so you can just combine traits. I'm actually gonna go into. There is a really simple way of how to do the research. And I'm gonna go into my EU4 trait because in that one I figured out how to correctly go about reducing the research speed. And I typically have a low research speed because I like to it's used for testing purposes to like just speed the game up. Actually, I'm just gonna copy this. Actually, no. I'm gonna copy the entire, all these right here, because they're all going to be needed. Um, so right here, we're going to place that right there. And we're going, so each one of these, we can't just have like a flat out, like just general technology cost reduction. We have to do it for every single era. Um, Except for the last, I mean, the only one you could leave it out for is the last one, only because that's the final one, and I'm not technically sure if there is a property, because where I found this, I don't think that there was a technology error 6 that they referenced. So I'm gonna just not add a error 6, um, both for having it where that's like the last one, that's like the final like straw, like the end of the game, and the other reason is because there is no real. I'm not entirely sure if there's a target property, and I don't like to test multiple things at once. Um, so for right now, we're going. He says he wants it by halves your research speed. So we're going to uh, turn all of these into 0.5. And so, in this right here, the higher you have it with the percent, the lower, the quicker you are going to be, the quicker you are to actually, like, research something. Because even though it might seem like a bit of the contrary, like the opposite, what this is saying is that we're going to take this, let's say that this was at, I originally had this at 0.9, but let's say that this was let's say that this was at 0.9. We're going to take the percentage of, we're going to call this a percentage, or essentially just multiplication, and we're going to multiply that by a error 1 reduction cost. So we're going to increase our reduction cost by a percentage of by 90%. That's what it's saying. Actually, it might make more sense to sort of change these to percentage. I'm not entirely sure. I don't really want to delve into that just yet. But anyways, yeah, that's kind of like how all this works right here. And what we could just do is that we can also block out all this tooltip hidden right here, because basically what the tooltip hidden is saying is tooltip hidden, that's where you, I mentioned this I think last video, but remember how when you hover over a faction trait and you see that it says +4 food per tile or something like that, that's what the tooltip is doing. The description doesn't actually do that. The description just talks about the faction trait, but it doesn't actually it doesn't really show what it does. The tooltip is actually showing what it does, and it reads it off as is. But just because your tooltip might read something off, that doesn't necessarily mean that it is, oh, I kind of messed this up. I gotta take this out right here and move, actually, I gotta just copy that right there. Have like a little end note, or else like this isn't going to actually work. But yeah, so basically, we can now see that it'll say something like class empire research reduction by 50%, something like that. Yeah. Oh, but anyways, what I was just saying earlier with the tooltip is that just because your tooltip may say that, oh, +4 food on like a tile, that doesn't necessarily mean it works. It just reads it off as is. And sometimes it may not work like if you have it like affect like the food affecting like your empire, like recalling to your empire instead of like your city or your district, then it won't work. But it'll still read it off as +4 food for your empire. So just keep that in mind whenever you're dealing with tooltips. Anyways, so we got that one done. So we're going to I'm gonna change the equal to about, because I'm gonna add this. I'm gonna add this document into the actual file itself. So the next one that we're going to be working on is the Wastelander. So this one is just saying that, yeah, you don't get any land from buildings or dust, or like you don't get like any of like the resources from like the land itself. You get them from population traits and buildings. So we're not going to work with the buildings now. And the reason why is because this is like I'm just focusing on the faction traits. Buildings you can essentially use as like a faction trait. All you have to do is just like, I mean, buildings are essentially faction traits. It's just that like you just have to kind of edit them. But I don't want to make this video too long, and I want to just keep this with what we're currently up to right now, which is just faction traits. So I'm gonna just rely solely on pop or traits really in this case. Because the population is affected by the traits, and pop is more of like an effect, not necessarily something that you edit really. So it's really just going to rely on the traits from pop, instead of the land, and so okay, and then this is just like a little bit of a description of everything of like more as to why. And so what I'm going to do now is that I'm going to change this. So the Wastelander. So there's gonna be two ways that this is going. There's gonna be I'm sorry, I just need to think for a moment. What we're going to need to do, so we're going to just ignore the buildings for now. We're going to actually just, from pop. And buildings. Actually, because there are buildings that will do that we're not going to edit. So, right now it doesn't seem like as though, the land, unless I was meant to balance it. So it doesn't seem like as though he's adding to the land. Like it doesn't seem like he's adding to the pops. Like it's not like as though instead of like +2 food from the land, it's going to be an extra 2 food for like the district or something like that. It's just saying that like, yeah, don't take any food from the land. And there's one faction in Endless Legend that does this really well, and those are the Kapaku, or the Flames as they called in this game. And the way that you can go about sort of like, if you want to have it where you don't get any food or any of the certain resource from a tile, all you have to do is just multiply whatever you get from that tile by 0. This is how they actually make it so that way you this is how they make it so that way they only get food from tyrannic like terrain. It's that they just multiply all the other food that they would normally get by 0. So what we're going to do is that we're just going to take this right here, and we're going to copy this. We're going to go back into here. So we don't need to subtract it by 4. I mean, you can subtract it by 4, but that's not necessarily the idea behind this. Like, it's more as in you don't want any food, because if you're on like an anomaly that has a +5 science or +5 food, then what it will do, then you'll still get science and food. What we just want is that we just don't want this here at all. So I'm gonna just comment all this out right here, because just that way, like, it has like a little color coding, so that way I don't confuse it with the one right below. And I'm just gonna copy the multiplication part, and I'm gonna just place that in there. And there actually is a better way you can go about this when you want to like replace something. If you just go into find subtraction and then do replace, what we could just do is that we could just do that right there, replace that, replace. Oh, is that all he has for subtraction? Okay. Well, anyways, but yeah, that's how you kind of that's how you can quickly replace something that you want. And we're going to change all these values to be 0. And yeah, so and then now they each have their own respective terrain tag. And yeah, so that's kind of how um that's how you go about this. Unless it said something like add pops, like pops, like each one of these pops instead like gained one, like +1 food for each pops. There is a way you can do this. um I think I'm gonna just look in here just see if there is a so there are ways you can actually add like a population. So each one of these has like you'll have like a base industry per population, a base so there's that even a city point per population. And so what you can just do is that you can just you can just take the target property and just sort of like add to it. Just do like change the operation to addition and then change the value to 1. Okay. So now we have our next one. And now this one is fine. I know like 100% that this should work because this isn't anything that's actually that too difficult to do. The next one is going to be interest. Which I guess it's instead called, I'm going to call this interest. And then I'm just going to call that banking. I'm gonna get rid of that banking right there. It does what it sounds like. You only get 0.1% of interest on all stock, and it increases by an additional for each city you have. Now, luckily, in our Silics mod, we did something quite similar to the second part of this sort of this faction. So the first one is 0.1% interest on all stock. So the way we can go, so first off, you don't want to do the addition. Addition is just adding to it. It's not actually, you want to have multiplication. Or, well, I guess in this sense you want to have percent, but I'm just going to leave it as multiplication because we're going to be, actually just going to be multiplying the value for like district dust and all that other stuff. Multiplication. I'm messing up my spelling right here, I think. And what has he said on all stock? So what I'm assuming that he's referring to is that he's referring to stock as district dust, district food, district industry. Because the only things that you can actually get, I'm not entirely sure if he's referring to the actual stock or like his city stock. But I'm just gonna do the. Actually, I guess I'll take a look and see like if we can actually find a stock first, like something that says maybe like the whole what was it called? Because in like the stockpile, that's what it was called. Because there's got to be something that references a stockpile. And there's got to be something in the endless legend simulations that sort of like add to it. And I'm gonna see what this is. A unique facility. Oh wait, this is just that's points of interest, so that's not gonna help us. We don't need that. Error 3 technology. So all the technologies we don't need because that's just saying, hey, this is a these are just like technologies that you're gonna that we're going to add to it so that way you can like research it. we have this right here, but like this isn't like necessarily a target property, and this isn't something I think we should really delve into. Oh, and that's infiltration actions anyways, so that's not anything we want to actually deal with. What is this template right here? Um, no. See, we don't want something that actually changes the game stockpiles. We just want something that changes. We want like an actual faction trait that changes the stockpile for a specific, when this faction has this specific faction trait. And all of this right here, wait, what is this all under? Resource definition, where that's not. We want everything that we want is probably going to be in simulation descriptor. Um, so for right here, what are we gonna see? This is class. I don't think they were really gonna do anything with class. Maximum city stock. Net, I think production stock. Where is this under? I'm gonna ignore that one for now, but I'm gonna like keep an eye on it because that one seems like as though it could be useful. Cause like, I mean, if you guys have played Civilization, they call industry in this game production. Um, but oh, okay. Right here, I think this is a good. Okay, so I think it is that might be actually called production stock. So this one, I think what we're going to do is that we're going to actually, well, no, that's multiplication. That's maximum city production stock. Because we don't want necessarily something that's maximum. But I could be wrong. Like, that could be actually what we're looking for. But just the name of it just sounds a bit off from what we're actually looking for. Let's look at this point of interest. I don't think it'll be here. And I stand corrected, it is not there because that's a facility. So we don't want those. Those don't have to deal with any of the stocks. And then now we kind of left the whole production stock. So we can play around with the Empire research, but I kind of don't really want to deal with. So if you want to do something with like the Empire research stock, like any type of like stockpile, this might be the one to use like as the target property. And you might want to actually start to play, and you might want to play around with it, but I'm not entirely sure. It really depends, because it's also kind of confusing why they would only just have a production stock and a research stock, but not a food stock or anything. But if there's like a faction trait or a building or a unit trait or any type of trait, you can always use, or not always, most of the time you can use that trait as a faction trait. So if we were to just look, and what I'm just getting at is that if we were to look inside item right here, if we were to want to have equipment attack, and we want to like increase, well, maybe not this one because like the items they work a bit differently. They work like per unit. But if we were to look at something like just trying to find one that is good. Let's see city improvement. So if we were to, well, let's say we want to have something that, let's say we want our city money upkeep to have an addition by one. As a faction trait, we can, and we have the target property. Anything that has a target property, you can have it. And as I was saying earlier, the base food for population, like the base population stuff, these are also target properties that you can use as well. And there's a bunch of them. Just gotta kind of find them. So for right now, what we're going to do is that we're going to interest on all on. We're gonna just say 1% interest on. We're just gonna call it dust. science, food, and I think production. And we're going to have, and we're just going to have it where it's just like a simple multiplication. We're just going to take our district dust, district food, and district science, and we're just going to multiply that by 0.01. Actually, no, we're going to need to multiply that by 1.01. Actually, wait, what am I thinking? We just need to change this to a percent, because a percent is just you're adding you're taking like whatever like your district dust is, multiplying it by whatever that is, and then adding it back into it. And then we're just going, I'm going to just delete this right here and the interest percent as well, because those don't really have to deal with anything that we're working on. I'm going to just copy this, and we're just going to sort of place it down 4 times because... And I think I'm going to just call this to the city, like have this be per city instead of per empire type major. I mean, if you want, you can have this be empire type major, but like with things with industry, with food, you can't really have those be a general empire type major. You have to have those be at least a city, a class city. I mean, you may be able to have those be an empire type major. It's just that I'm not entirely sure how that will work and go about. But I mean, if you're modding, like, I mean, all the best of luck for figuring that one out. But I don't necessarily know how to actually really go about that. And so I'm going to just add this to all that right there. I'm gonna just because I kind of just want to. Actually, well, it doesn't necessarily matter because I don't have to replace I have to replace all of these. So it's going to be food, district, science, and then we're going to have our district industry. Okay. And so what we're going to do, and so we have so this is going to be our flat percent. This is just like you just get an interest right here, and it's just going, and that's going to be your that's just going to naturally accumulate zero, like you're going to naturally accumulate 0.0 like 1%. Actually, I gotta change, if it's gonna be percent, I gotta change it. You're gonna naturally accumulate 1% of whatever you're making. And then it's an additional 0.1% for each city you have. And I think I started talking about this, but we did work on this with our Silics faction. So if we were to go back into our Silics faction, into our simulation, inside our where I forgot what trait it was, but inside our MF specific trait, where we did the binary operation, where we did it based on the number of cities, we can just we know like how to actually like sort of use this sort of value right here, and so all we have to do is that I'm just going to copy this right here. Actually, no, I'm not going to copy that one because that already has a tooltip hidden. I'm going to copy this one right here. I'm going to go into the not that one. I'm going to go into our faction right there, and I'm going to just paste it right here. We're gonna change this. We're gonna need this to be the district dust, district food, district science again. And yeah, unfortunately, there's no way you can really just like call in like just the general like, oh, the district, whatever you get from your district. You have to call in each individual one. So we're gonna multiply our. How are we gonna do this? So what we're going to do is that we're going to multiply our number of cities by 1%. So for each city we have, and we're going to multiply that by 0.1%. And actually, I think the way we're going to, so it's going to be, yeah, and then oh, sorry for that. My hand hit the mic on accident. It's going to be, so the left is going to be a 0.01 sort of multiplication. So we're multiplying all of our cities by 0.01, and then we're going to use this, whatever number that is. So if we have one city, it's going to be, we're going to multiply that by 0.01, and then we're going to multiply that by our district dust. So our district dust is going to have 0.01. So if we have two cities, it's going to be multiply our cities by 0.01, and then we're going to multiply the other thing by our district dust by 0.01. Actually, no. We need to actually change this operation to percent. So it's instead going to be our number of cities. So it's going to be our number of cities times that, and it's going to be like I think it's going to be like this. I think it's going to be percent. See, there's a lot of math involved in this mod right here. So we're going to have this be percent. We're going to call, so it's going to say we're going to multiply this by the number of cities by 0.01, and we're going to then and then we're going to have that, and then we're going to multiply that by our district dust. Oh no, we're going to use it as a percent as well. So we're always going to have a 1 in front of it. So it's always going to be greater than 1. Because when we get one city, we're going to, not greater than 1, but it's going to be, when we multiply by one city, it's going to have 1%, and then we're going to take that percent and multiply it by our district dust. So then our district dust is going to get an additional percentage. And I think that actually this one should be multiplication. Yeah, that's how it should work. So we're going to multiply it, so it's going to be 0.01, but then turned into a percent, that's going to be 0.1%. And we're going to take that percent, multiply that by our district dust, which is then going to, okay. So yeah, that was a bit of a doozy of math right there. Yeah. Luckily I'm very good with math, so I can I can figure this stuff out. But that was something. Anyways, so right now we have our percentage based on the number of cities. So we're just going to copy this, and we're going to repeat this 3 times. Okay. Now we're going to change this to food. We're going to change this to science. And we're going to change this to industry. And yeah, and then that should be it. So I have a very good feeling. So the first half of this is definitely going to work. Okay, this is just a very simple. It's just you're just multiplying it by. You're not multiplying it by the value. You're multiplying it by a percentage. Like, so you're multiplying by that, and then like adding that to your thing. It's like a binary operation. The whole percentage. But for right now, we're now going, and then like for this one, this should also work. I mean, I may be confusing myself and I may be overly thinking it, but this should also work. But either way, both of these should produce something. The only thing that may cause a bit of problems is this one right here with the whole the division of like the district industry and the district science. But we could see what values we're getting. And so then for our next one is going to be the militant economy. So this one gives you a small bonus to all your cities based on the number of units you have and the total tile yields of your empire divided. Well, see that's a little bit of like a. Well, I'm not entirely sure if he's planning on making this a faction, but like that would be sort of contradicting the one earlier where it was like you don't want any sort of tile production. So that wouldn't really work. But you could have like I guess either one, but you can't have both of them at the same time. You get 1% of the tile yields district times 3 per unit with a reduction of 0.1. There's a lot of percentages in here. Okay. I'm not going to do this one. This is a lot to deal with. First off, I don't know how to really get it to like the money, like the whole like I think cost of a unit, like the maintenance cost of a unit. I'm not entirely sure if that's that definitely isn't like I think a faction trait. I mean that may be a faction trait. But like all like this right here, this is a very sort of odd thing. Like this is very technical, and I just had to deal with the original one with the interest, and right now I don't want to have to deal with this whole militant economy. So I'm just going to actually I'm gonna see. Did he actually copy this target property from the game, or did he copy this from? Okay, no, he didn't. Yeah, I'm going to just leave that as is. I might sort of highlight this. I'm gonna like copy this out because what this is that this is just sort of a what's it called? This just doesn't really like this may cause like problems because since we're not referencing a militant economy, we may get an error and crash the game. So the heroic envoy now, what is that one? It's the only effect I never could get that to work. Actually, if you want anything to affect based on minor factions, a really good thing to look at, and I'm assuming that this is what he's saying, is that like something where it's like where it's the certain number of like the whole like things that you get where it's like the city approval based on the number of pacified villages. If you want anything like that, like just look at like the faction traits, and you just get a whole bunch of examples based on the number of pacified villages, and you get to like see like how all this works. But and a bunch of different target properties as well. So actually, I'm just gonna look through here to see if there's one that just says any type of military reduction sort of thing. There probably is a trait that sort of reduces like the military like economy. But we're getting close to like the time on this video, and I don't want to spend too much time on this one. We're now going. So this one is just saying that I can never. Now apparently, what I took hero ball to make. That's a form. Total war games ball them up into a single point. So for every hero you have without a possible assignment, you get an additional pop. I'm not entirely sure what he means by assignment. Additional pop in every city along with 10% bonus to all FIDs. And a series of similar bonuses to your army with similar reimbursement of your hero's upkeep. It very much appeals to a more turtle strategy, but played right, you can go amazingly offensive. So So I guess it's like just a general like military just bonus. Um, I guess I'll just delve into this because there's no way I can kind of get it to where it's like a hero only army. I can have it where because like there's no way to really determine a hero only army. Like whenever you create an army, um, like you'll notice that there are traits like from Geos and like the whole Urkos that they have these traits called solidarity, which means that like or you can't add them to an army, and that's because they have a unit ability called solidarity that allows them to not be part of an army. But that doesn't. But whenever you have an army, and like an army is its own thing. There is no way to determine if it's a hero only army or if it's an army of 3 people versus 4 people. It's just that it's an army. And you will have like a sort of capacity, like you can only have 4 units in your army or only 3 units in your army. But there's no way to determine if it's a hero only army or not. So there's no way to actually determine that. But what we can do, just to show you guys an example, is that we can sort of, let's just say we want to add something to our hero. Like we want to have where the hero gets a certain trait. And, this is going to be a lot, but I'm going to just look inside here for every single thing, every single like trait that we can add. And as you can tell that there's 3,000 different traits right now. I'm going to just scroll all the way down to some sort of simulation description because like we could probably easily find this. Oh, okay. It's called upkeep. That's what it was. So we could probably have like some sort of like army upkeep as well for our thing right here, in our military economy. So I mean we can increase the because like heroic envoy sounds like as though like you're going to increase the heroic like you increase the number of like heroes, but what we could, but basically, as you could tell right here, like in this, the game difficulty bonus, this is also like a decent one that you can use as a way to just copy simulation descriptors. Like the hero upkeep, we can just change this. We could just copy this and just change the percentage from a value of negative 2.5 to instead be like a different value. Like we can lower it and make it like cheaper for heroes. And there's like just other different things like we can have it where I think the let me see if where there's actual there's gotta be like something that says like maybe like hero health or something along those lines. Okay, yeah, like right here, hero skill, modifier descriptor, attribute, initiative, and this is going to be your unit path hero. And I'm actually just going to copy this entire thing right here, because this is pretty good. So basically what this is saying is that it's just going to increase your this is just going to increase your initiative by 15%. And the only thing that I'm a little bit uncertain about is the path. I'm not entirely sure if that path is correct for our purposes, because what we might want is that we might want something along the lines of this, where it's instead the garrison class hero, because you have whenever you're working with military units, you're gonna have 2 things. You're going to have a garrison unit, and then you're gonna have a class empire unit. And basically, the reason why I'm kind of mentioning that, and the reason why there's a difference, is because everything inside your garrison kind of becomes a different property. Because garrison units are actually different than empire units. It's kind of weird, but that's just how it is. So you can actually have it where when your units get garrisoned, they actually gain or lose certain attributes or different like abilities and things like that. It's kind of weird like that. And then when they come out, like, because like the units in your when you have units in garrison, it's kind of like they're different units. or I could just only be thinking about garrison units as a type of unit. I could be I could be thinking about something else for a little bit. But whenever you're dealing with something like this, you want to have both a class Empire hero garrison and a class Empire hero. What's it called? Like just a class Empire typical thing. So what I'm going to do is that actually I'm going to just copy this entire thing, and we're going to just paste that right there, and we're just going to have our garrison, and we're going to paste that right there. And so I guess I'll go into a little bit of this, like what the slashes are. I think I may have talked about this a couple of videos ago, but I'll just reiterate it again. Basically, what all these slashes mean is that they just delve deeper into the actual subject itself. So, for example, you first start off with Empire type major, and then when you want to get more specific, it's going to be slash class city. You want to get more specific than that, you then get into class district. But if you want to if you want to talk about a specific aspect of this specific area, then you do a comma. So, for example, if I want to talk about the if I wanted to do a class city and a garrison sort of area, hypothetically, I don't know if this would actually work, but you would, since the class city and the garrison are both in like the same specific realm, they're right under the Empire type major, you would have a class city comma, or well, if you want to do something with like resources, let's say, like you want to have like an extraction, you do class city comma resource extraction, because the resource extraction isn't actually a district. A class district, it's actually going to be its own class city. And this is just a different example. Like for right here, this is our class empire, because we're affecting the, like, you always start with your class empire. Even if we got rid of this entire whole like thing right here, the whole path, but we keep our property right here, what we will still have is that we will still have it be the class. We'll still have it just reference our class empire. But what this is referencing right here is that since the unit hero isn't really affected by an army or like anything like that, because you can just still like move your hero, and your hero is its own unique thing. Your hero is going to just be right under the class empire, and then right here, because it's garrisoned, it's going to be referencing your class empire, your garrisoned, and what's in there, and then it's going to be referencing your unit rank hero. And actually, I need to change this from priority to path. And I'm going to change this from priority to path as well. And that should work as well. Wow, I just stuttered pretty badly right there. But yeah, that's what the that's how all this works. Yeah, so now we're going to go in, and we have all of our stuff right now. I'm going to just delete I'm going to leave the military and economy, but I'm going to, for the heroic envoy, I'm just going to change this to, all heroes gain, plus 15, percent, initiative. And so, what was I gonna say? Yeah, so I actually talked about, gave a better explanation as to what a percentage is. And so for right now, we're now going to go in and test. Actually, well, no, we still have one last thing to work on. We have to work on the faction traits custom. And oh wait, that's our specific. It's going to be. I forgot we gotta go into here. We gotta look at the P. And so for right here, we have it. I'm gonna just change all of these to 0 just for testing purposes. So that way we can easily just go in and we don't have to really pay anything. And this right here, I'm going to just call out, like comment out, because we don't want to cause any problems with the game, because it'll try to reference something and then that thing won't be there, so it's gonna just have a bunch of difficulty. And so yeah, we have four. Those all look good. There doesn't really seem to be anything wrong. Gonna go back into our GUI. Gonna look at the GUI elements, and the other thing that he did that I actually didn't realize you could do is that you can write the title in right here, and then write the description right here. Yeah, you could do that. I never actually thought that you could like work on like sort of what's it called? I never thought that was actually something you could do. But I guess it is something you can do, but I just never really thought of it. I guess that explains why we always get that percentage whenever we're testing a mod, and we don't leave in a GUI element, but we just like leave in like the whole like title and the description sort of thing. But if you're having like a long game that has like, if you're having like a long mod, it's probably better to keep in like a localization, but you don't necessarily need to have a localization, as he just showed right here. So we're going to go into English, and that localization has no purpose, so I'm going to delete that as well. And yeah, the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take this note that I've been writing down the entire time, bring that into community, going to go up, place that there, and yeah, and so we should now be good. We have everything saved. The last thing that I want to do, there's a way you can test to see if your mod has any, if your like documents have any syntax error. If you right click with the open with and hover and go to open with Internet Explorer, if it loads correctly like this, there should be no syntax error. But if there's something odd or strange that happens with it, that means that you have a syntax error. You won't find out where your syntax error is, but you'll know that you have a syntax error. And so I'm just going to do that with all of these. Just make sure that there's no syntax error, because it'd be annoying if like our game crashed and then it was all because of a syntax error. So yeah, right now we're going to go into our Endless Legend game right here. So yeah, this is a little bit of a long video, but like I am going over a full-on mod. And I didn't divide it like I did like in the last video. And this is also including a playthrough. So I guess right now, if you guys, I'm gonna lower this volume right here, just turn it off completely. If you guys want, you can kind of end the video now, because it's just checking to see if like this all works. And we can tell, even though like I have like his mod and my mod on, you can tell that this one's mine because of the no X right here. So I'm gonna click on that. I'm gonna validate it. And yeah, and then we're gonna see like which one of the tooltips will be working. Luckily our validation went through, so that means that everything that we have is working. So I'm gonna pick the Vaulters and +1 on terrain with science. I'm going to look now for our thing. Let's see what this says. So our Autotopian, district science divided by districts, multiplies district science divided by district dust, and multiplies that by our dust on cities, and does the same thing with the all three of those. And then it's plus 50% research cost reduction, and yeah, that's kind of why you keep the tooltip hidden for the cost reduction, because it just looks like words. It's not really anything much. It doesn't have like the little symbols like the other, like these things have. But yeah, Oh, and so you could see that, like, right under the right below the trait, that's what he wrote, and then like the effects, that's all the tooltips. So for right here, for cutthroat interest banking, this is going to be plus 10% on cities, plus 10% food on cities, plus 10% that on cities, but per plus 0% gold per number of cities. Um, I may that should be, yeah, because it's got to be 0.1%. Wait, let me think. Yeah, it's 0.1%. So that should be fine. And the game doesn't recognize, even though it says 0%, it's because the game doesn't recognize anything lower than 1%. So any decimal points it won't actually recognize. Um, or actually, wait, no, wait, does it? Hold on, wait. Can't tell if I just made that up or something. I think it doesn't. I could be completely wrong. Um, Actually, there's one really easy way that we can figure this out, and that's with this guy and his entire inefficient extraction. Oh, well, we had to play as him to actually figure it out. Well, I guess we'll play as him. Okay. We'll play as him and take his inefficient extraction, and we'll gonna go into our economy. Let's just see again like what we have. So we have this. I'm just gonna add that. Hopefully that works. Hopefully that's. I mean, we could always like change the value of it, so that's not that difficult. Plus 30% on heroes. Hold on, was it 30 that I did? Not entirely sure why it's doing plus 30%. It might be because it's adding both of those for some reason. Well, I guess that's something I didn't really know about. Okay. So we're gonna play as these guys, and we're going to see what's working. We can tell what is being affected based on our what we're like based on the value that we're getting. However, I'm just gonna take a look at the district science, district industry. So our district wastelanders work. It seems to be working. Well, that's really easy to test. Basically, if you just go on a tile and if there's nothing there, then when there should be something there, then you can tell that it's working. And then we have this one right here, which is going to be 0.1%. And then we have our percent of 0.01 multiplying by that. I think I know why. I think it's that I think I gotta change. I don't know why I didn't think of this. I gotta change the left value. I gotta change this to be it's gonna be really low. That's why I gotta change this to be 0. That's like a 1/1000th I had it at. Okay, I know entirely why now. Okay, so our Wastelander is definitely working. We can tell that already. I'm gonna just spawn right here, I guess. I mean, it doesn't make any difference because you don't get any tiles. You don't get any resources from any of your tiles, but you can tell right here that from your districts, you do, in fact, get resources because you are getting the +1 size for the city center and the well, you do get +1 size from strategic resource, but that's like a whole different factor that's being led into it. I mean, you could also minus that out, but there's a whole other different thing with like the strategic resource that I don't really want to get into. Okay, let's see what's going on in our food right here. Um, Organic industry. I probably should have taken organic industry out. Okay, so we can check off the Wastelander. Um, this one, that's going to be taking our. I think we need to. I'm just going to end my turn. I'm just going to build that. Going to turn my resource into that right there. Then I'm going to start. Gonna dismiss that because we don't really need it. 230 turns. Um. Oh, -1 for Autotopian. What is that? That is so city point. So oh minus. Let me see for a second. Does it show any? So we have Autotopian somewhat seems to be working. So we're getting 1 from the tile. However, we're taking our district science, dividing it by our city point. So that should be a. So that should be the So that should be a +1, and then it's going to be multiplying it by ours. So take district science divided by city point. So that's going to be 2. Then we should get double our city point, but instead it's minusing 1 for some reason. And I'm not entirely sure why that is. However, the values are just so low. Oh, okay, well, we can see that our cutthroat banking is working with our +2%. So our interest right here. So this half is working. No production. No. -1 from Autotopia. So I think the problem with this is that just trying to figure out like why it's subtracting 1. So I think what it's doing, it might be science divided by city point. So we gain 1 from the main city, taking our district science, dividing it. So we should be getting something like 1 like 2 but instead we're getting -1. And I'm not entirely sure why. We're getting -1 there. And because we don't have any production, well, we could tell that it's somewhat working because it's not really affecting anything there. I think we gotta have it actually be the other way around. Maybe that'll work. I think it's taking it the other way, where it's taking like our yeah, I think that what's doing is just taking like what we have and like because it's gonna be 1 divided by 2, multiply that. That's gonna be yeah. I think we have it like kind of like the opposite way potentially, or I'm not entirely sure. why it's necessarily subtracting. But that's something I looked into. But like we do know that it's somewhat working. It's just why is it negative? We're not entirely sure. But I don't want to really like go into this again. I just want to do a single video on this. But like that's kind of how you would go about doing this. Maybe play around a little bit. The Wastelander definitely is working. And I was saying I was uncertain how this works, but I'm pretty sure that the reduction cost is also working as well, even though there's no real way to determine it. The other thing is that our point of interest is also working. This right here may be working or not. I'm not actually. It should be working. It's just that like since we have such a low value, it's not actually going to do anything. And then our envoy, we can't actually test right now. So I think I'm gonna have to comment this out. So I guess everything I was saying earlier was kind of false. Oops. So we're gonna comment that out. Change this to 0.1. This is my bad. And yeah, I think I'm gonna leave that as the video. So this is the Autotopia mod. Definitely a mod for extreme gamers if you want to have a really tough what's it called? Really tough challenge with a -1 for this. But no, I also made the values pretty low as well. So yeah, that's the mod. I hope you guys enjoyed this video and you learned some things. But yeah, after this we're gonna be kind of done with faction traits. We're gonna be heading into actually making a major faction in our next video. And well, not just making a major faction, but like the actual like components of it, because there's a lot of things to add when you're actually making a major faction. And so for now, I'm going to end the video. Although like the playtest came out to be a bust, I'm not gonna. I only want to just have like a single video on this. Later on, I could fix the last one, which is the what's it called? This one right here, and just see why it's giving me a negative. But I have a feeling it's something just like with either like the division sign or something like that. Something just a bit odd. But anyways, guys, so that's the video. Hope you enjoy it, and yeah, if you like this, please leave a like and subscribe, and I'll see you in my next video.